Coming up in this special bulletin.
The United Nations said measures need to be put in place to ensure that children do not drop out of school.
Education Ministry had sent more than 2,000 street children back to school through its inclusive education campaign since 2012.
A San community in the Ohangwena region has started to embrace the importance of education.
UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador is in the country as part of the Day of the African Child celebration.
It is the Day of the African Child, celebrated on June 16 every year since 1991.
The day honors those who participated in the Soweto uprising in South Africa in 1976.
Welcome to this special bulletin marking the Day of the African Child. I am Christian Prinsloo.
And I am Namati Shivute. On to our first story. UNICEF is an agency that promotes children's rights in a partnership with governments around the world. In this insert, we asked what stride has Namibia made in the realization of children's rights.
Namibia has made a huge progress in the realization of children's rights. When you look at child mortality, when you look at more children enrolled in schools, when you look at more children having access to shelter compared to before independence, when you look at more children having legislation that protects them, the Child Care Protection Bill, for example, even the Convention on the Rights of the Child has been domesticated in this country. And in addition, the Africa Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child also has been domesticated in here. We are saying that children have rights to education, to protection, to shelter, to play, but also have obligations.
Dososo called on the government to first check the implementation of policies. She highlighted that inclusive education for children who are differently abled should give access to all. Measures need to be put in place to ensure that children do not drop out of school. In this regard, a retention program should be devised to minimize school dropout rate to ensure that they unleash their full potential. This, she said, can only be done if all key players come together and work out an action plan.
If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know, clap your hands.
Namibia is a vast country with a population of 2.2 million people. There are some challenges when it comes to access services such as health and education, which are fundamental rights for every child. Children in rural settings have different needs from those in urban centers. Thus, it is important for service providers and communities at large to ensure that all children have access to basic services. If you're happy and you know. A social accountability program is being run by the UNICEF in collaboration with the European Union and the Ministry of Education in schools to promote a culture of responsibility. Dososo called on Namibian children to have compassion for each other and to refrain from bullying each other. She said children need discipline and should make informed decisions.
Children and young people can turn the tide of disparities and inequalities. So it is time for children to act as much as policymakers, as much as parents and communities at large, to ensure that every child, wherever they are in Namibia, really enjoy their right to education, to protection, to development, to participation, and to health.
The Namibian child is lucky to wake up to the sounds of birds singing rather than gunshots experienced by children in war-torn African countries. For NBC's Day of the African Child News, I am Namati Shivute.
The Ministry of Education, through its inclusive education campaign, has since 2012 sent more than 2,000 street children back to school. In the Kunene region, 250 street children were placed in formal school. Last year, 5 of them were admitted at the Queen Sophia Project School.
The learners in pre-primary to primary phase at the Queen Sophia Project School are provided with meals during the break. They are served with soft porridge, and they were not impressed with us intruding on their lunch hour. The second meal of the day is certainly the highlight, as some of them would have their lunch shared in a group, moving from one plate to the next. These students, who are all from different backgrounds, have created a bond. As one finishes a bowl of porridge, you are required to wash your bowl in a basin placed under the makeshift kitchen, which is run by community volunteers. The 80 pupils who share a community hostel are from different towns. Fritz is a 16-year-old boy who is in grade 6. He is from Ocho and is a straight A student who aspires to become an engineer. Ricky is 15 and he is in grade 4. He too is from Ocho, and when he finishes school, he would like to come back to Queen Sofia as a school principal. Fritz and Ricky share similar backgrounds.
I was so naughty at school, so they chased me away from school. So I stayed for 3 years in the street.
Then I was in the street, then I was eating in the dustbin. We've come at the school, write the exam. Then I was write the exam. Then my mother said, don't do that nonsense.
Scuffing for a meal and figuring warmth for the night was the order for the day and night for 10 years for these two pupils who were expelled from school and resorted to life on the streets.
When I came into grade 5, I was thinking I will not make it. But later on, I realized I will be able to do it. So I decided I will never leave school. And that's why I'm still here.
If you pass to grade 4, you should study hard so that you can go to grade 5. Because if you are not serious and remain in one class, and you are not transferred, and you are not being honest, looking after kiddos will be your future. Listen to the teacher. Don't hurt other kids. Don't make noise in class.
We spoke to Vicky, a teacher at the project school, about the importance of rehabilitating street children to return to school.
And we will guide them. We have policies at school, we have management, we have principal, we have council members, and then we will try to take them on that way.
Okay. Fritz, the aspiring engineer, and Ricky, the future principal of Queen Sofia, called on all children who are not taking their education seriously to do so, as this is what determines their contribution to Namibia as a country and Africa as a whole. For NBC's Day of the African Child News, I am Tulipumeni Kalunjuka.
A San community in the Ohangwena region has started to embrace the importance of sending their children to school. However, because of lack of national documents, some children do not attend school.
Ohangwena is one of the regions with a high number of San people. While the majority of them no longer live a nomadic lifestyle, some remain out of reach of essential services. At Onakalunga village in the Omundaungilo constituency, positive strides are being made as some of the children are attending school. Lucia Ofiko takes care of her 9 grandchildren. 3 of them are in grade 7, but 6 yet to be enrolled. Hafiku told us that she does not know their ages, therefore she could not send them to school. She said, many were dropped here by their mothers who left the region to look for work elsewhere. Hafiku has, however, still not given up on her dream to get them educated.
I want all my grandchildren to be educated. Education is good. We are in poverty and only education will improve our lives.
Her blind husband, who is a dormitory headman, echoed the same sentiment.
We have realized that this school is really teaching our kids because some of those who have passed have brought about positive changes.
Head of department Hafeni Harindola says the San children at his school are doing well because they receive counseling from the life skills teacher who was appointed to facilitate their integration into the school system. The only setback the school experience is a high number of school dropouts amongst the San community. Once they reach puberty, they either undergo traditional marriages or due to teenage pregnancies. 30 million of the world's 57 children out of the school are in the sub-Saharan Africa. Namibia is doing its best by integrating the formerly marginalized children in the formal education. These are efforts toward the meeting in the Millennium Development Goal 2 deadline, which ensure that all children in the world are in school learning. Caroline Shivute, NBC News, Oshakati.
Children have rights of protection against harm, abuse and exploitation. In Namibia, children are mainly subjected to sexual abuse, corporal punishment, even though it is banned, and negligence from parents or caregivers. A legislation called the Child Care and Protection Bill was passed by Parliament.
The bill, if implemented, will protect us children better, as it will look at our interest, because children's participation is important to ensure that the child's views and needs are taken into consideration. The main piece of legislation on children is currently the Children Act of 1960. This law was inherited by Namibia at independence, and it focused on the issues our parents faced when they were children, and thus the new law will look at issues that we as children face today to protect us better.
Some people may feel that, we are such a young nation, and we have made tremendous progress since independence. And we agree that there are so many good laws that we have in Namibia that protects or are supposed to protect the kids or the children of our beautiful country. But I think there's definitely room for improvement. If we work better together as a nation, I think in terms of something like abusing a child, that's something that starts at home. You need to educate your child that violence is probably not the answer. So I think in terms of the legislation, yes, there's good laws, but we need to educate our kids. It doesn't help to have so many good policies, good laws, international agreements that we have signed, but the kids are not aware of their own rights.
The Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare is the custodian of the Child Care Protection Bill. Engelbrecht stated that the norm of children being seen and not heard is an outdated way of raising them, and thus children and parents and institutions should work together to better equip children mentally.
We need to start at home, we need to start at our professional levels, and also in terms of our government and so on. I think let's protect our kids the best we can, and obviously I think a happy child is actually a happy nation.
A child has the right to conditions of living necessary for his or her development, including adequate food, shelter, clothing, care, and protection, which includes adequate health care and immunization, education, and play and leisure. For NBC's Day of the African Child News, I am Angelina Norwell. Alcohol abuse and unemployment among parents and guardians contribute greatly to children not going to school at Keetmanshoop in the Karas region. This is seen as betrayal to the children in Soweto, South Africa, who 40 years ago revolted against inferior education, where some even paid with their lives.
The majority of residents speaking to NBC News say it is the duty of parents and guardians to teach children about the importance of education and its benefits. Stella Russ, a resident of an informal settlement, says alcohol abuse and joblessness should not be used as an excuse, as government has introduced school feeding schemes on top of free education. Therefore, parents should stop their destructive behavior and look after their children's well-being and send them to school. A senior social worker at the Gender Equality and Child Welfare Ministry says it is shocking to see how some parents fail to give their children proper care. Namasiku Samboe says many parents fail to act against children who refuse to attend school.
The current law that we have, we cannot charge a parent just for school, for not taking a child to school. We can only charge for severe neglect where children are found physically abused.
Therefore, she said, government needs to introduce laws holding parents criminally liable for their children's education, saying this is one way of ensuring education for all children and reduce poverty. Sylvia Joseph is one of the concerned members of the
community about children not attending school.
If the parent herself is ignorant, he or she will not motivate this child to go to school. It will not give a kid any hope for the future. It will not give the kid courage to go to school. So actually the parent has to lead by example. Then only our kids will be able to attend school.
Article 20 of the Namibian Constitution dealing with education states primary education shall be compulsory and children shall not leave school until completion of primary education at 16 years.
Our hope is that all parents realize the importance of education soon, because education is the key to success. Veronica Basson reporting from Keetmanshoop.
Still to come after the break, parents urge to ensure their children have the right to a name from birth. Young people must take ownership of the environment and preserve it for the future generations. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
God bless the children. Keep them safe now and keep them warm. I said, God bless the children. Keep them safe now and keep them warm. Oh, keep them safe and keep them warm. Oh, keep them safe and keep them warm.
Welcome back. Young people living with disabilities at the coast need more centres that support and create equal opportunities for them. Access to education and skills training is still the biggest challenge that they face.
The majority of young people with disabilities do not have access to opportunities. The lack of special schools for disabled people has become an obstacle in empowering them. This is why the Walvis Bay community established the Sunshine Kids Center to give opportunities to more than 100 children. Nicknamed Namibia's Golden Girl for winning the first gold medal at the Paralympics, Johanna Benson spent a lot of time at the center after attending morning classes at an ordinary school. By socializing with other disabled youth at the center, it gave her strength to realize that people with disabilities can also excel if they have an encouraging environment.
Everyone is having the rights, whether you are disabled or not. We have to enjoy and we have to must be treated equally. More schools must be built like here, like the centers, and in other regions also.
The center is amongst a few at the coast that rehabilitate youth with disabilities so that they later join ordinary schools or gain a skill that can earn them an income.
We have managed to send children back to schools. You know, we came here at the age of maybe 12 years and the child never went to school and the child is disabled. What we are trying to do is to stimulate that child, send the child. We managed to send so far 25 children back to school.
The center depends on donors, and UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and South African singer Yvonne Chaka Chaka pledged to support the center and similar initiatives.
I'm eager to learn more how we can help, as the minister said, how we can collaborate and how we can help you make your life better, to make these children's lives better. And I'd really urge the government as well to come to the party to help you where you need help. But I think private help, you know, big businesses as well, they make lots of money around here, so they need to plow it back.
Chaka Chaka is in Namibia to mobilize partnerships to rally behind children's rights.
Children shall have the right to a name from birth, the right to know and be cared for by their parents.
Max Nkuti was diagnosed with severe structural brain malformation at 3 months. Doctors said he would die by the age of 2. But 7 years down the line, he is still alive. The love and protection he receives on a daily basis from his family and friends kept his hopes alive. Where once medical experts have given up on a boy whose name from birth was known and will remain as such. Hi, today we are at Max Nkuti's house, a boy who is suffering from severe brain damage. He's a 7-year-old boy and he's breathing through a trachea. Let's go in and go see what his grandmother has to say about it. Many parents in similar situations hide their children because of the stigma attached to the disease. What word of encouragement do you have for them?
Any child, with or without a disability, is a gift from God. In the case of children like Maxton, with severe brain problems, cerebral palsy, etc., I plead to you not to hide or abandon them. This is not what God expects from us to do. Seek for help. Give them your exceptional love, attention, and look after them.
Maxton was legally adopted by his grandparents in 2010 and has since become a full member of the Kuti household. The family's medical aid is fast approaching its limits as medical expenses, which include prescription drugs and transportation to the medical expert in Cape Town, put strain on the family as only one family member is employed. What is the personal lesson that you have learned since you have started caring for Maxton?
Each day, Maxton lives by the grace of God. And I know that God is using Maxton to lighten up our life and to teach us about grace and about His love.
Cerebral palsy can't be cured, but the treatment will often improve the child's capabilities. In general, the earlier treatment begins, the better chance children have of overcoming developmental disabilities or learning new ways to accomplish the tasks that have challenged them. Dr. Adri Kutsia, can you tell us how important is early detection?
Die vroege opsporing en diagnose van cerebrale
Early detection of diagnosing cerebral palsy is very important because the earlier the child is diagnosed, the earlier the treatment and therapy can start.
toestand wat die mediese dokters betrokke is nie.
It is not only medical practitioners that are involved, but physiotherapists as well as biokinetic therapy is required.
Moet betrokke kry.
Now we're going to interview Ms. Sharon Namasiku from the Ministry of Gender and Child Welfare.
All children are equal under the Namibian law, whether you have special needs or you are just a normal person, you are equal under our law. So it's every parent's responsibility to take care of their children.
As we celebrate the Day of the African Child, let us pause for a moment and reflect on our Namibian children who have no voice. Let us applaud to the parents that sacrifice their time and energy to giving a helping hand to the voiceless.
Namibia's environment is fragile, therefore young people must take ownership and preserve it for the future generations.
The Ministry of Environment and Tourism has established centers across the country to get school-going children involved. Centers such as the Kachikona near Waterberg and Kobapep near Swakopmund allow the youth to conduct research in the Namib Desert and develop ways on how to rehabilitate the environment. Research is done in areas like climate and ecology to desert conservation and restoration.
We invite these young people and we don't really specify the schools. We allow schools to apply, those who want to come there and send their learners there. And we take some days in the desert so with them, teaching them and making them to understand the science of treating natural resources there.
All schools are also encouraged to develop environmental programs which outlines the importance of making real investments in environmental education and outdoor learning. Schools such as Waldorf Private School in Windhoek have heeded the call and conducts outdoor education in the field itself. Some of the programs include replanting of trees, which has the capacity to absorb harmful emissions. The Environment and Tourism Ministry says the current disasters such as drought are caused by the carelessness and lack of collective approach in the past. Namibia is one of the hardest hit countries. Cases of rising temperatures, unexpected changes in rain and winter weather, patterns witnessed just last week at the coast, and flooding are just some of the problems Namibian communities are experiencing.
The situation we have today, it is because probably the past leadership of the world did not see or did not take seriously the indicators, the red flashing indicators about activities that have negative impact on the environment.
Any person, whether natural or juristic, can be fined if found doing harmful activities to the environment. The ministry is therefore urging young people to take care of the environment for future use. Deshu Kutondokwa, NBC News, Ventuk.
Children in the Divundu Combined School in the Kavango East region said a crime-free Namibia with adequate healthcare and education opportunities would be the ideal place to live in. They want government to give particular attention to the fight against poverty, especially for children in remote areas.
I want Namibia to be free from poverty, sickness, anything, but we can do that when we are based on our education school, so we can do that.
The kind of Namibia that I want to see is the kind that has no poverty, harassment, or discrimination. All that I want is an equal and gender-based violence stopped in Namibia.
Some children in the Zambezi region called on world leaders to resolve conflict through dialogue and not through war and terror attacks, as these violences mostly affect innocent children on the continent. Appreciating the recently introduced free education in the country, they also call on the rest of the continent to do the same, to create an informed and united Africa. This is what they had to say.
I would just like to appeal to our leaders of Africa that when crises and conflicts appear, they must sit on a table and discuss things so that we as African children may our rights not be violated, like the right to shelter, education, protection, and health. For an example, the Nigerian children, they were abducted by rebellists. Their rights to shelter, education, protection were violated.
In Namibia, we have free education, and I thank the government for giving us that free education, and I would like to advise learners to do their part. As now that we have free education in Namibia, they should do their part. And I also want other African countries to do the same.
I would like to see a united African nation, more especially here in Namibia, where the issue of tribalism is rooted out. Because if we discriminate ourselves, we will not develop in terms of economically.
I would want all African children to be treated equally, not to be discriminated against, like for races, being poor or being disabled. They should all be equal.
Up next is the latest sport news, but first another trip to the marketplace.
God bless the children. Keep them safe now and keep them warm. I said, God bless the children. Keep them safe now and keep them warm. Oh, keep them safe and keep them warm. Oh, keep them safe and keep them warm.
As Namibia joins the African continent in commemorating the Day of the African Child, we found out from children and youth what sport means to them.
Sports means a lot to me for the fact that it keeps us out of the street, out of danger.
To participate in sport, you get to go to other places, you get to stay out of streets, and you get to your drinking of alcohol and drugs abuse, they decrease.
I'm a football player by profession, and sports means togetherness for me. Like, it is a way of uniting With sports, there's no racism.
Sport is good because all nations in the world have sports and all have athletics, soccer, cricket and everything. That's why schools produce sport, let the learners get fit and that they start to at least something in their life.
And here is your latest weather forecast for tomorrow in the country's major towns.
To end this special bulletin, another look at the main points. The United Nations said measures need to be put in place to ensure that children do not drop out of school.
Education Ministry had sent more than 2,000 street children back to school through its inclusive education campaign since 2012.
A San community in the Ohangwena region has started to embrace the importance of education.
UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador is in the country as part of the Day of the African Child celebration.
As we near the end of this bulletin, just a word of caution to our fellow peers. Please do engage with history. There is a good reason.
Think of the famous phrase that says, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it."
And with that, we come to the end of this bulletin, and we hope you enjoyed our company. From me, Christian Prinsloo,
and myself, Namati Shivute,
cheers.